everybody, for another episode of Complex Combo with your girl, Sonia B. As promised, I am following up on requests that I received on topics that I should address here on my YouTube channel. So today, I actually have two topics, but this video will address one. The question was, how do we handle family members who overstep boundaries? And when overstepping those boundaries, it impacts relationships, whether friendships, marital relationships. So how do we handle that? So I would like to say, first of all, at some point, we've had to learn how to set boundaries for our family members, especially, and then the expectations that we set for them. And when we set boundaries and we set expectations for our family members, that lets them know how they're allowed to treat us. And so, yes, that not only includes family, but it includes friendships as well. Any type of relationship. You got to teach people how to treat you. And unfortunately, family does not come automatically equipped with the nice button or to know how to treat you button. Okay? So while I give credit to those of you who may be watching this video who you just innately have this talent where you set boundaries automatically and everybody knows where you stand, so they know what you'll put up with and what you won't. This video, I'm talking to those of us who specifically are still learning how and when to draw the line when it comes to dealing with your family. And I had to take some notes to make sure I address everything that I had on my mind when I got this topic. So there's going to come a point in time in your life where you're going to reach a boiling point in your family relationships with your family members, where they're constantly overstepping their boundaries with you. They're saying whatever they feel in front of whomever, and this will ultimately affect your relationship. So whether you're dating or you're newly married or you've been married for some time, there's always that one family member that oversteps those boundaries. So the way my family was set up, you took the slight, whatever the parent or the family member was saying to you kind of sideways, and they did it in front of whomever. You just kind of took that slight in silence, and you just kind of went on about your way like everything was cool, keeping it to yourself. And then you get off into your private space, whether it's with your husband, boyfriend, your kids, or other family members. Did you hear how Aunt so-and-so was talking to me? Did you hear when Uncle blah, blah, blah said what they said? It was kind of sideways, and this is how I felt about it. So you go and you complain to somebody else about it, and they let you get your anger off your chest. But that issue was still unresolved with the individual who overstepped that boundary. And when I say overstep that boundary, somebody who's always got an opinion about how you should live your life, how you should rear your children, what type of job you have, who you maintain relationships with. I mean, there's a whole gamut of things that they overstep their boundaries with. And there's a way to go about expressing your opinion when you're talking to your family member, expressing what you think they should and should not do, instead of demanding. But in this case, family, for some odd reason, feels like they have an all-access pass to say whatever they want to say to you, and no matter who it's around. And they don't take your feelings, your experiences, your life experiences, your wisdom, your age. They don't take any of that into consideration. So, however, when you're old enough and you develop relationships outside of your immediate family, that toxic behavior that your family has already developed while growing up, that starts to spill over into your extended relationship. So it ultimately impacts your friendships, how you deal with your friendships. So we have to stop as adults. We have to stop and think and remember that we set the tone on how other people treat us. Okay. So if you're dealing with a family member that constantly is overstepping, you need to kindly set a boundary. Now, keep in mind the things that I suggest may or may not work for you. If they work, great. And I'll tell you ultimately what you should do if none of what I say helps. But you need to kindly set a boundary. And I say kindly because, our natural inclination is to be rude and to match energy. You come at me crazy, I'm coming back at you crazy. Nobody hears anybody when you're angry. So you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. That's what the old people say. So be kind about it. They might be a little shocked when you set this boundary, and they probably will try and laugh it off. To me, that's the ultimate sign of disrespect. You're laughing at me, and I'm trying to tell you that I'm tired of, how you're treating me or the things that you think you can continue to say with your slick tongue. So they won't take you seriously initially, and that's partly your fault because, and when I say it's your fault, I'm accepting part ownership in that because I've been there. It's partly our fault because we let them get away with it for so long. You've been so kind, and you've been giving them leeway in the beginning. So when you set this boundary, whether that means you sit down and you talk to this person and you say, look, when you continue to say these things in the presence of my husband, in the presence of my boyfriend, or in front of my friends, whatever the relationship situation is, this is the message that you're sending. And I feel disrespected, and I would like for this to change. Not everybody's going to be ready to receive that because, who is this child to set boundaries for me? Because to all of our parents, to all of our older family members, older siblings, cousins, whatever the situation is, we're always going to be a child, especially when it comes to setting boundaries. But you may want to give them some leeway in the beginning. For me, it's always my face. Like, really? You're going there. But then at some point, you get kind of tired of giving the subtle cues. So I'm going to use my mom as an example. Yes, Mom, if you're watching this video, yes, I'm using us as an example. And this is a recent situation. I get mad at my mom for being passive-aggressive when she needs something. So instead of just coming out and saying, I need someone to come pick me up, take me to the doctor, or if they could swing by the pharmacy and pick up my medication, instead of being direct, she's a little passive. And so she'll say things like, ooh, I need to get my medication because, if I don't, they're going to put my medication back on the shelf, and just kind of leave that out there. And I used to, placate her and say, okay, Mom, so you need me to do X, Y, Z. And then I would get frustrated. It's like, I wish she would just come out and just ask me what she needs to ask me. And then when I would subtly say something like, Mom, if you need me to do something, can you just tell me? And she'd say, well, I know you're busy and I don't want to impose on your time, or I don't call because I know you're working. Well, that's the reason why you answer the phone and you say, hey, I'm busy right now, but can I call you later? Is it important? Is it something, is it emergent? Give me an opportunity to tell you that I'm busy instead of assuming or making that passive statement. I don't because I assume that X, Y, and Z. And so this one particular time last week or so, my mom did something similar. And I said, stop. I hate when you do that. Actually, my exact words, I hate when you do that shit. Sorry. Yes, I did cuss a little bit. But you got to learn how to set a boundary, and you got to give your family a little bit of leeway in the beginning because they're not used to you setting the boundary. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. I just wanted to give an example of having to deal with that. But like I said, it's partly our fault because we haven't set boundaries. So when you do, just beware that they're probably going to test those boundaries. They're going to laugh. They're not going to take you serious. They'll probably be like, whatever, you don't mean that, and they'll continue to do that. So keeping that in mind, you need to remember those boundaries that you set, and you got to be firm in those boundaries. If you continue to do X, Y, and Z, you're probably going to see less of me because I'm tired of being disrespected by you. I'm tired of having my feelings hurt by you, because how other people treat you kind of sets the tone to the individual you're in a relationship with. So how we let our family members treat us, especially in front of our relationships, whether it's boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, friends. It sets the tone on how those people will treat you. So like I said in the beginning, you have to teach people how to treat you. If your significant other constantly sees that you allow other people to disrespect you, you kind of set the tone for them that it's okay for them to disrespect you. So if you're not setting boundaries with your family, you're ruining it for any potential relationship or situation outside of your family, okay? So that's us accepting responsibility in the part that we play in the disrespect that happens with our families. And if your relative starts getting angry with you, remind them, look, I've attempted on several occasions. I talked to you about it. I told you the consequence if it continued. Maybe you separated yourself from your family for a little bit and then you came back into the fold. But if that disrespect continues, you got to remind them. I attempted in other ways to draw the line. I told you what was going to happen if the line was crossed. Whether that was silent treatment, you just going on radio silence for a little bit and not returning phone calls, not showing up to certain family functions, or just flat out walking away just to separate yourself for a little bit. And you may have even had an explosive exchange before you detached from your family. So if you've tried all of this, they've received the message. They just weren't ready to believe you. So sometimes you might have to go back, rinse and repeat. Okay, I've separated myself. I got quiet for a little bit. I had an explosive argument with you after telling you, time and time again, this is how you disrespected me, you crossed the line, how you made me look in front of other people, setting the tone for how those other people treat me. Now, I'm just not going to be around the family for a minute. So if you rinse and repeat it, some people, they'll continue to fall back in the old patterns. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So if these are older family members, they are who they are. They're going to be how they're going to be. If you've set a boundary and they continue to cross it, you may ultimately need to walk away. And I know in this day and age when we need family more than ever, your family sets the tone on how other relationships are going to treat you. So if you allow for the disrespect to continue, I'm sorry, but you're allowing other people that same past to treat you that way. So honestly, when you're thinking about ways to set boundaries for your family, know that for the person themselves that you're setting the boundary for, they may not be ready. They may not be ready. Like I said, I'm going back to what I said in the beginning. We set the tone on how other people treat us. So if you've allowed your family members to treat you a certain way for a while, it's going to take a while for them to change that behavior. So it starts with you setting those boundaries and standing firm in those boundaries. And sad to say that ultimately, if you've tried all of that and the disrespect continues, you may need to cut them out of your life just to get the peace and the respect that you deserve. Let them watch you from a distance. Be great. And I'm not saying that should be your first line of attack, to cut people out of your life. There are some people who are just made like that. Disrespect, cut off, and it doesn't matter. But I'm talking about boundaries for family that overstep. So if you've tried the talking, you've tried the silent treatment, you've tried the distancing, you've had the explosive exchange, you've walked away for a great period of time, you've rinsed and repeat, the disrespect continues, you may ultimately have to cut them out. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Life is too short. We all deserve to have some peace in our lives. And that starts with you. Your family situation sets the tone how people outside of your family are going to treat you. If people outside of your family see that your family constantly disrespects you, they are going to start to disrespect you and overstep their boundaries. So you got to start developing boundaries, setting boundaries, drawing the line with your family. And you got to also do this with your outside relationships. You can't be, wishy-washy with your family, but then be firm with your friends and everybody else outside of that. Because they're watching your family situation. If they're close to you, they're watching that. So If you've given people an opportunity at every turn to do right by you, you may just need to cut them out. But it's time for you to realize that you've got no room in your life for folks to just be deliberately and repeatedly disrespectful to you. Okay, so that's my 2.5 cents on boundaries for family members that overstep. I've had that experience with my mom, as I mentioned. I just gave a brief synopsis. I don't want to make this about our relationship. I've had to do this with siblings. My brother and I, I'm very firm in who I am and the things that I will accept. We've had an explosive exchange. We didn't talk for 2 years. We came back together, and you have to reiterate those boundaries. And ultimately, he got it. Our relationship is structured a little differently. I still love my brother, but he knows that there's a line. I can't talk to my sister a certain way. As we grow older and we mature, you need to, your conversation skills need to mature with the individual. No matter how older one is, I may still be a child in your eyes type thing, but I'm not a child. I'm a grown woman with grown children of my own. So if your children see your siblings being disrespectful to you, that kind of sets the tone for your kids. Well, shoot, if her brother don't respect her, then I can disrespect her. So you got to set those boundaries somewhere. Hopefully this helps somebody. Hopefully I answered your question for the individual who suggested this topic. Keep the topics coming. I love it. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so below by clicking subscribe. If you've already subscribed, I appreciate each and every one of you. Love your suggestions. Keep them coming. Please comment below. The comment section is there. Let's dialogue about this. Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Have you set boundaries for a family member? How has that worked out for you? I've given an example of how it's worked out for me. God knows I have many more, and I'm constantly setting boundaries, but the foolishness stops with you. Stops with you. Okay? Until our next topic later on today, be good to yourself.